What is emerging market? And fundamentally, the way we look at this is there are roughly 3 categories of countries across the world. There's a first batch, which would be called, let's say, North America, Western Europe, which is what we call the first horizon. So these are countries which have got a per capita income about $12,000 to $13,000 per year on an average. And this is slightly dated because this is a year or two back, so these numbers may have shifted slightly. These are World Bank numbers. The second horizon is where there has been a fair bit of talk over the last decade. Countries like Brazil, countries like Russia, where there has been a fair bit of action, but it's also more than $4,000 or thereabouts. Of the 7 billion people in this world, 4 billion are in countries which have got roughly per capita income of, I think, $1,000 to $5,000. That's 4,000, but that's slightly dated. So it's $5,000. And that's the focus of what we call emerging market countries, countries like India, China. China is fast escaping that bracket right now, and others are part of that. So the per capita income clearly is one dimension, but I think that's a very rough dimension. What is a much more exciting way of looking at this chart is to say, how do you characterize people who are living in those countries? So if you look at years of education, you'll see that actually it's not too far away from the upper and the middle piece. Look at urbanization, radically different, or at least sufficiently different. If we talk about mobile penetration, well, I think this number has also jumped up since this graph has been published, but even then about 50% or thereabouts. Then you look at internet use, very low. And we had a very interesting workshop yesterday where we talked about digital penetration. And you talk about cars per, I think it's per 100, it's about 2. That's radically different. So you can see that this class of customers, if I may call it that, require a different mindset to approach. So that's the second definition of emerging markets. You could argue a third definition is that they're fast-growing market. And Alistair and I talk a lot about, should we be calling this a growth market forum as opposed to an emerging market? You could argue that as well. And maybe there's a fourth dimension, which is about institutional gaps, which is where we feel that there is a lot of thinking which is happening in this emerging market center of excellence to say that many of these markets just do not have some simple things that other developed markets have, such as credit. It's very, very difficult to get in a smaller town or village. Supply chains are broken. And we talk a bit more about that in our framework. How do you address that? So that's in some ways the definition.